Meantime, the Ohio National Guard was given the green light to start administering vaccines. It's all because of a waiver from the Department of Health and Human Services. General John Harris, you see him here, he said the Guard can reach hard to reach areas of the state. So, Romney, many moving parts to this as we head into the Christmas holiday. Again, DeWine asking us to once again do what we did over Thanksgiving.
Vaccine will then be made available to others who choose to be vaccinated. And to prepare for the vaccine rollout, Governor DeWine toured the state's Receive, Store, and Stage warehouse in Columbus today. About 24 Ohio National Guard members have been working with the Ohio Department of Health warehouse to develop the plan to receive and then repackage the vaccine for distribution. When the vaccines are ready to be shipped, they must be removed from ultra-cold storage and then repackaged with dry ice.
And that was Meg Oliver reporting. Ohio will get nearly 100,000 doses in its first shipment, which is expected to come on Tuesday. Indiana is prepping for 55,000 doses, and Kentucky will get 38,000. Tonight, all three are getting ready. The National Guard is working with the Ohio Department of Health to set up storage. They'll also help with shipping, delivery, and security to facilities throughout the state.
The level of importance of this mission is critical. Everyone's heard about the vaccine coming out. It's going to come out of this warehouse. Everyone understands what that means, and they are ready for this to take off.
FedEx and UPS are also gearing up to help with distribution. Both companies have increased staffing to make deliveries smooth.
At the front of the line, healthcare workers and those living in nursing homes. And more help could be on the way next week. The same FDA panel that approved Pfizer's yesterday will meet again Thursday, this time to consider Moderna's vaccine, which at 94% effective is just as reliable as Pfizer's. Tonight, the U.S. doubled its order, picking up another 100 million doses. And we have everything you need to know about the vaccines and the timelines for them at local12.com.
Turning now to the coronavirus in our state and the vaccine plan right here in Maryland. Governor Hogan says all hospitals and nursing homes, they can expect their first doses of the COVID vaccine in the next 2 weeks.
Now this comes as we hit a grim milestone. More than 5,000 people have died from this virus across our state. 61 deaths were reported in the past 24 hours, and that's the most in a single day since May. Hospitalizations also hit a new record high.
And let's get over to WJZ investigator Mike Helgren breaking down the new information from the governor. Mike.
Rick, Denise, the National Guard is being reactivated. They'll help in distribution of the vaccine, and later down the road, they may even host some mobile clinics to get people vaccinated.
From banning to burning, a top-selling book on transgenderism is making waves.
The book examines why teenage girls are suddenly coming out as trans. CBN's Heather Sells reports on what the author found and the backlash it's creating.
Author Abigail Schreier believes it's okay for adults to have medical procedures changing their appearance to fit their desired gender, but she's against that freedom extending to children. Her new book chronicles the transgender craze among adolescent girls and the professionals who pave the way for them to get puberty blockers and surgeries.
All I'm asking for is more medical oversight, caution, and awareness that this is being a socially driven fad. Nothing so outrageous at all.
But transgender activists say no to that.
The outcry against the book comes from some critics that you might not expect. The American Civil Liberties Union, which has defended free speech for 100 years, calls the book dangerous and says we have to fight these ideas which are leading to a criminalization of trans life.
An ACLU attorney wants to stop sales of the book. A UC Berkeley professor called for it to be burned, then reversed herself and now merely wants to mock it. Top booksellers have even helped the cause. Amazon blocked ads from the publisher, and Target agreed to ban the book after some customer complaints. Now Target has the book listed again, but it's sold out.
I think these retailers, and there are very few of them who control all the books at this point, they will at whim, I suppose, disappear books when they've decided that it's in their interest to do so.
For now, the backlash is helping. Regnery Publishing reports that after the Target ban, the book's daily sales jumped from 40 to 800. Irreversible Damage has now gone to a third printing, and it has enjoyed time as Amazon's #1 best-selling book on LGBT demographic studies.
The book had a lot of grassroots support from parents who feel like they have no other voice. They have lived through the horror of having their daughter suddenly identify as transgender out of nowhere and have every adult around her undermine the parents and push her towards transition.
Schreier, who writes for the Wall Street Journal and Newsweek, says mainstream media has generally refused to review her book. She also predicts a new trend. Any upcoming books that challenge so-called woke politics will simply disappear, unable to survive in a hostile marketplace.
The government say that you should go to Manston Airport to get tested.
But that's the lies.
Why won't you go there? Why is that
There's no
lies?
testing for coronavirus.
There's no testing. He's lying.
No testing.
He's lying.
I rang the online. There's no places to do drive-through test. There's no one helping. They left the people locked in Manston in the airport. They locked the gates. So they're prisoners. It's against the law. And they left the people without the toilets and everything. The cars parked up. There's no toilets, nothing.
Well, I mean, the government insists they are setting up these testing centres that they started this morning. Yeah. Well, I mean, will you go?
We heard last night that the army's supposed to come in here into the port and supposed to be testing since this morning. Can you see him?
There's nothing there.
Lies. It's a lie.
He's only played the game with us.
Yeah.
This is the thing.
You want to walk out that way?
Maybe so I don't want to go there because I'm not go, but then I'm really sorry. We stay here because after 12 o'clock.
Okay, just one question. I'm calling 2 p.m. tonight, 1025, moving. This opening is the border. I need a COVID test. Where is COVID test?
Okay, listen. Go over to Manston. They are getting everything in place to get everything sorted out for your onward travel. Okay?
I need a transit to home. I'm from Ukraine and I need a transit
I
from France.
understand.
I need a transit to
I understand.
We just want to transit.
monster.
Being urged to stay indoors after the Kilauea volcano erupted again. Check out the lava from Kilauea early this morning. It began erupting late yesterday, about 1 hour after a 4.4 magnitude earthquake rocked the area. At least 7 other smaller quakes were also reported. So far, there's been no damage. The National Weather Service in Honolulu put out an advisory warning of fallen ash from the volcano. When Kilauea last erupted in 2018, it destroyed more than 700 homes and put out enough lava over 4 months to fill 320,000 Olympic.
This morning, flights grounded as more countries close their borders to the UK, including Germany, Italy, Turkey and Canada, after Britain warned a new strain of coronavirus might be hyper-contagious.
It may be up to 70% more transmissible.
New York's governor questioning inbound flights.
Right now, this variant in the UK is getting on a plane and flying to JFK. Right now, today. To me, this is reprehensible.
France even closing ports, crucial supply lines for freight. London's world-famous shopping streets deserted days before Christmas. The UK locking down the southeast of England. In the hours after the announcement, crowds rushed to leave by train and by plane. By this morning, the British government adjusting its message.
I think the reality is it will already be in other places, and it's already been found in several other European countries.
And there is evidence of the same virus variant in Italy, Belgium, Denmark and the Netherlands. The new variant has multiple mutations to its spike protein, 17, an unusually high number, affecting its shape. Mutations are not unusual, but this one has spread fast, especially in and around London. And UK COVID cases were falling after tough restrictions. Now they are soaring. The infection rate up 51% this past week.
We don't know for sure that this variant is
brought to our attention late last night. There was not one, but 2 earthquakes detected out west last night. They struck a rural part of Colorado near the town of Nucla. The first was a 3.3 quake, and the second was a 4.3 quake. No damage was reported, but some people did feel shaken as far as Moab and Grand Junction.
Every red dot on this map is a tiny earthquake, some 40 to 60 miles underground. Last Sunday it was 197, mostly under Kitsap and Pierce counties. Then it spread to more than 500 a day. They usually happen over the course of several weeks, about every 14 months. And until about 20 years ago, we didn't even know they existed.
Maybe 2002, 2003, that we started realizing that these tremor events take place deep under Western Washington.
University of Washington Professor Emeritus Steve Malone has been listening for them since the early days by putting out sensitive seismometers.
It relieves as much strain energy as, say, a magnitude 6 earthquake would do so. But since it's spread out in time, you don't feel it.
This map captures the pattern since 2003, a band of deep quakes running from Vancouver Island, Canada, under western Washington and Oregon to northern California, a series of tiny tremors that play out over time. If each of those weeks-long events happened quickly, they would be the rough equivalent of the Nisqually earthquake in 2001, a 6.8. It's dark down there, so think of it this way. You're in a dark room and you set off flashes. Each flash is like a little earthquake, revealing something else that's in the room. Eventually, you get the full picture.
I do actually think that these things are giving us a window into a part of the Earth we can't get to.
Also called slow slip or deep tremor, they're a lot more than a scientific curiosity. They're believed to be the leading edge of the subducting 𝐷 plate that's being pushed or subducted under the land we stand on, the North American plate. Deep down where the tremors happen, the heat of the Earth makes the plate plastic and stretchy. But close to the surface, the plates are expected to move again in a giant earthquake, a magnitude 9. That's on the kind of scale we saw in northwestern Japan in 2011. The question, will these silent earthquakes provide a warning when the big one will come? Harold Tobin is Washington's chief seismologist and an expert on subduction zones like ours.
Do we eventually understand what the potential is for this being a predictive tool?
Yeah, I'm optimistic that that is where the science is headed.
time in 8 years, the U.S. Navy's Fifth Fleet publicly announced that it moved a guided missile submarine into the Persian Gulf. This comes one day after the American embassy in Baghdad was attacked by a barrage of rockets that was said to have caused minor damage and 1 death. The USS Georgia, guided missile submarine armed with 154 Tomahawk cruise missiles, has transited the Strait of Hormuz and entered the Persian Gulf. Let's get details on Sunday's attack in Baghdad. Correspondent Trey Yanks reports tonight from our Middle East newsroom.
The U.S. Embassy's air defense system fires interception rounds into the sky over Baghdad. Its target, 8 Katyusha rockets aimed at the green zone inside the Iraqi capital. Diplomatic sources told Reuters at least 1 civilian was killed and minor damage was done to the embassy compound. The event drew condemnation from the Iraqi government that called this a terrorist attack, as U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo blamed Iranian-backed militias, tweeting, quote, "These violent and corrupt criminals must cease their destabilizing actions." The statement drew a direct response from Iran's foreign ministry.
I think that the Iraqi government will definitely find the perpetrators and those who order it based on its duties. I also warn the United States regime not to seek starting a fire and waging conflict these days.
The American embassy was the target of numerous rocket attacks over the past year, conducted by suspected Iranian-backed Shia militias. Though Sunday's rocket fire comes just 2 weeks before the 1-year anniversary of a U.S. drone strike that killed top Iranian general Qasem Soleimani in Baghdad. The killing led Iran to fire ballistic missiles at a military base housing American troops in Iraq last January. This January, the Trump administration will reduce the number of U.S. forces operating in the country from 3,000 to 2,500 soldiers. Calculations are ongoing for Iran and its proxies across the Middle East. There is hope by the regime in Tehran that a Biden administration could lift economic sanctions on the Islamic Republic while allowing them to continue a controlled nuclear program.
Military aircraft from Russia and China entered South Korea's air defense identification zone without prior authorization, prompting the nation's air force to scramble fighter jets. 15 of the foreign planes were Russian and the other 4 were Chinese. Some crossed into the zone near the southern island of Yeouido and some near the eastern islands of Ulleungdo and Dokdo on Tuesday. According to South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff, the Chinese side said the flights were part of a joint military exercise by the two countries. Seoul's Defense Ministry lodged complaints with the military attaches of the two countries, urging them to communicate such maneuvers in advance. The Air Force fired warning shots for the first time last July towards a foreign airplane after Russia had entered Korean airspace without
Our group is trying to raise money for pandemic relief, but how they're doing it is drawing criticism. News 13's Rachel Knapp spoke with the organizer of Sit on Satan's Lap fundraiser.
You might remember this Jeffrey Epstein statue that was placed outside of Albuquerque City Hall months ago. It stirred up a lot of controversy. The local art group, Antlion Entertainment Art Collective, told us it was a satirical political statement. And now they're back at it again.
There was actually a typo, a clerical error, and I just kind of rolled with it because, everyone needs the money. Money's tight right now.
This is the artist behind the fundraising event, but he only wanted to be identified as Satan, and he didn't break character. The artist says their event, Sit on Satan's Lap, will take place here at UNM's Johnson Field December 19th to raise money for the aid organization Direct Relief, who provides global humanitarian medical help.
They're hosting an event where I will be behind a barrier with only my knee exposed so that children can sit on a lap and get what they want for Christmas, because Santa's hiding out like a coward and I'm willing to step up to the plate.
On the event's description posted on social media, it says, how many people have been saved by prayer? 0. How many have been saved by wearing a mask? 130,000. The artist says, don't send thoughts and pray, donate 666 today. The Photoshop picture of Satan with children has gotten hundreds of comments.
I thought it was pretty funny. It was an interesting photo, honestly, but it was also pretty funny photos.
I like it. It's definitely a way of going about it.
Some people we spoke with today say they didn't mind it since it was for a good cause, but others are calling it disturbing, saying it's not funny. One woman says they need to get themselves to church, but the artist says people should find humor in this.
If I can roll with it, certainly they can roll with it and realize it's going to a good
There's
cause.
a 60% increase over last year in requests for food assistance. And it's not just lower-income Americans who need help, because the first round of stimulus checks were based on last year's tax returns. A middle-class family who lost a job this year is also feeling the impact. Here's CBS's Mark Strassman.
very tough.
Worry kept Jose Cruz company on this morning drive.
How I can live, I have to feed my family, especially my baby. I have a baby.
That's 7-month-old Valentina.
Look, my sweetheart.
Her dad, a 52-year-old unemployed chef, picked up donated food, enough to stuff this van. It will feed families in crisis, including his.
When I go to the bed, sometimes I cry myself. I say, God, help me, please.
Cruz fell hard and fast in March after losing his job. He made good money cooking at the Mayflower Hotel in Washington, D.C., $92,000 last year. Now he volunteers full-time at So What Else, a food bank. The siege of this pandemic has eaten into America's middle class.
What you need, sir? What you need?
In prosperous Montgomery County, Maryland, this charity serves 60,000 meals a week.
Some food?
The need increases every single day.
Here we go, man.
Executive Director Dave Silbert says Cruz stands out.
One for each. The main thing I know about him and learned is that his work ethic is tremendous.
6 weeks ago, someone stole Cruz's Social Security number. His unemployment checks stopped. Under the latest pandemic stimulus bill passed by Congress, he'll likely get a few $100s because of his infant daughter. That's it. Cruz helped hand out more than 150 Christmas toys. One of his only gifts for little Valentina,
the global fur
donated
trade
diapers.
is the latest to feel the chill from the pandemic. Worth more than $22 billion a year, it's been left reeling from Denmark's decision to kill 17 million farmed mink. COVID-19 outbreaks at hundreds of fur farms led to the discovery of a new strain of coronavirus in the mammals. And industry officials expect fashion houses such as Louis Vuitton, Dior and Fendi to snap up fox and chinchilla to fill the gap. In Denmark, a breeder-owned cooperative that sold 40% of global mink hides last year is considering selling its brand after announcing that it would shut down operations over the next 2 to 3 years. Copenhagen Fur CEO Jesper Lau Christensen told Reuters he had received interest from Chinese customers to take over the brand.
I don't believe in Denmark that you will start up again, maybe in a very small scale. A couple of guys will try out to start breeding again in 2 or 3 years from now. But the whole infrastructure, who is the main value of the Danish fur production, will be gone. All the feed kitchens, all the researchers, all the advisors, our lab, making sure that you have good animal health.
Worries of sudden shortage of mink pelts, of which Denmark was the top exporter, have lifted prices by as much as 30% in Asia. All eyes are now on Finland, where 1 million mink and 250,000 fox pelts will be up for grabs next week. China, followed by Russia, is the biggest buyer of Danish fur, as its own mink are considered of lower quality than those raised in Europe. Animal activists hope the Danish debacle, which has had political repercussions in the country, will help put an end to the fur industry. Fur farms or fur products are already banned in places including Austria, Britain, France and California.
I think in a year from now we will look backwards and say, how could you do such stupid thing as has been done in Denmark?
In just a few weeks, Vest had its business of more than 5 decades wiped out as the result of a government order that has since morphed into a full-blown political scandal. It started in November with a message delivered over grainy video calls.
We got an information from our association that we should join a Zoom meeting, and up to nearly 1,000 farmers joined this meeting, and that was the way we learned it.
A mutated version of the coronavirus, they said, was spreading through Denmark's mink population, and scientists raised concerns it could spread to humans and hamper vaccination efforts. The conclusion was clear. The entire country's population of 17 million mink.
We've been telling you for 2 days now about the state sending out random names and social security numbers to strangers. Tonight, the state thanked us for flagging the problem, is taking immediate action, and is blaming fraudsters. CBS 2's Jermont Terry live with what's changing right now.
Brad, no longer will IDES mail full Social Security numbers and names of individuals seeking unemployment. It's a move made after CBS 2 alerted the state that the private information was going to wrong addresses. But it begs the question, why now? Why now? What's the reason behind it? To understand the new solution by the state, you have to go back to Monday when Joe from ALSUP received 11 letters from the Illinois Department of Employment Security in the mail.
So I have 11 letters in this envelope that have different people's names and different people's social security numbers.
All sent from the state to verify his employees were collecting unemployment. The only problem, Joe doesn't own a company and neither does this woman.
I was like, oh my God, they sent me 5 different social security numbers and names of people that I don't know at all.
CBS 2 notified the state of the problem, and finally IDES acknowledged the huge mistake, blaming scammers for posing as companies and trying to defraud benefits from the pandemic unemployment assistance, which expires this week. Until now, the state sent names and social security numbers to employers for verification.
This is something that might have gotten away with back in the 80s or 90s, but you can't do that anymore.
The reason, it claims, large companies could not rely on names and addresses only. But in light of those letters showing up in random mailboxes, it will come up with a new way to identify claimants, and a full social security number is no longer an option.
The last 4 digits are all you need.
Fraud expert Bill Cressy is amazed it took CBS 2 to get the state to know this type of personal information is just too sensitive to mail.
Hopefully this will be a lesson that they will take to heart, and it won't take a report from Channel 2 to straighten their practices.
Now, we know of 2 people who received the private information of strangers, but the state hasn't said just how many letters they believe went to the wrong addresses. Fraud experts recommend that everyone check their credit report to make sure that you haven't fallen victim to identity theft. Live in the loop tonight, Jermont Terry, CBS 2 News.
Today, Governor Ron DeSantis signed an executive order that seniors 65 years of age or older will be able to receive either the Pfizer or Moderna COVID-19 vaccine. But due to the limited availability, the governor did ask for seniors to be patient because at this point there simply is not enough doses of the vaccine for all Florida seniors.
Our priority is the elderly population. If we have enough vaccine, we'll get it out. As we continue to get more and more, we can make it broader and broader. But the bottom line is the state of Florida is prioritizing our COVID-19 vaccine for our seniors. They will have priority over ordinary workers who are under 65.
Governor DeSantis added that individuals who are in the hospital and are high risk can also receive the vaccine no matter the age. He will leave those decisions up to
During a year of canceled events and quarantines, the hotel industry has taken quite the hit. According to the American Hotel and Lodging Association, 71% of hotel owners say they won't make it another 6 months without some kind of financial help from the federal government. Well past the busy season between April and September, about 1/3 of hotels across the country are facing bankruptcy or closure by the end of the year.
The rest of the year, you're usually operating under a break-even point. So this year, if you looked at April through September, we never made it back to break-even, which made it really, really difficult.
Larger hotels are struggling the most, with many conferences and sporting events being canceled. Here in Omaha, revenue for hotels is down 55%, and the economic impact from these conferences has dropped by 75%. With this drop in revenue has come a jump in layoffs.
Very challenging when you pretty much lay off 65 to 75% of your staff. That's an uneasy feeling because you have so many people that have worked so hard.
Hilton says bringing staff back on when travel numbers go up will be difficult as many hotels will be competing for help all at once, and many workers have moved on from the industry. But the news of a vaccine does give the industry a little hope for 2021 if they can hold out just long enough.
You just have to have optimism. You have to have faith that at some point things will turn around, and health and safety is paramount right now.
Reporting in Omaha, Jessica Edson, 3 News Now.
When am I going to get another stimulus check, and how much is it going to be? Well, the short answer tonight,
We don't know, but this is what we do know. After months of debate, Congress finally approved a $900 billion COVID-19 relief bill this week. But now President Trump is pushing back, threatening to veto the bill unless lawmakers increase the direct payments to Americans from $600 to $2,000. Democrats had also pushed for larger checks, and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi wants to approve the measure by unanimous consent tomorrow. So if the president does veto that bill, Congress can override him. But time is now running out with Christmas Eve tomorrow and unemployment benefits for some 12 million Americans expiring on Saturday.
Now to some other top stories of the night. A train derailment involving the BNSF railway happening over in Yakima County. The sheriff's office shared these photos with us. This happened along State Route 22 east of Mabton, and officials say no one was seriously hurt. Unlike the derailment in Whatcom County that happened just yesterday, this train is carrying hopper cars instead of tank cars. However, we don't know what they were hauling inside those cars. No word on a cause either. Deputies are on the scene. The derailment comes one day after a tanker train hauling crude oil derailed north of Seattle and 2 train cars burst into flames. Residents were ordered to leave the area, but evacuations have since been lifted.
Well, tonight, KPIX has learned lawmakers plan to call Bank of America on the carpet in January to question it about massive fraud involving unemployment debit cards. KPIX5 was the first to report on what appears to be an epidemic of hack attacks on the cards. Fraudsters stealing thousands of dollars in cash directly from ATMs. Tonight, Kenny Choi reports on another trend he uncovered in a KPIX5 original report.
Getting charged for a dinner here at Dumpling Alley wouldn't be that big of a deal unless you end up spending hours on the phone trying to get your money back. That's what's happening to some of the more than 150 people who have contacted us about fraudulent charges on their EDD Bank of America debit cards. The dollar amount is much smaller, but the frustration is just as great.
And I was like, what is this charge?
Martha Galvin noticed it right away. An unusual $53 charge on her EDD debit card from DoorDash.
It gave a zip code, so then when I Googled the zip code, it said San Francisco.
But Martha lives in Southern California.
So I was like, okay, this is definitely, obviously not me.
Same thing happened to Los Angeles resident Amy Parks.
Well, at first I was like, ooh, dumplings.
She also got a DoorDash charge for $96.57 at Dumpling Alley in San Francisco. Both women say they expected quick resolution from Bank of America to what seemed to them like obvious fraud.
I thought it was going to be a quick fix.
But not so.
I started calling at like 9:30 and I just set the phone down on speaker.
Amy says she waited almost 3 hours to get through. Martha was on hold for hours too.
They're just hoping that people give up.
What does that money mean to you?
That's my internet. That's, lunch for the whole week.
And they're the lucky ones. As we have been reporting, some EDD cards are getting hacked for much more. Meet Benicia resident Rob Thurber.
I went to the local ATM machine to pull out $1,000 and it said insufficient funds.
He says $1,000 was withdrawn from his EDD account and it wasn't him. He's got 3 daughters, his wife is disabled, and he's been out of a job since the beginning of the pandemic. Like everyone else, he says filing a claim was a painful experience.
So the first call, I waited on hold for 7 hours.
2 days later came the letter from B of A telling him his claim was closed. Rob appealed, but a month and a half later, when we met up with him, he was still waiting.
It really feels like they don't care. It makes me sad because I'm already struggling with the fact that I'm not providing the way that I want to provide for my family.
I think we're in the early stages of the uncovering of a very serious problem.
Ted Merman is interim director of the UC Berkeley Center for Consumer Law and Economic Justice at Berkeley Law and a former California Deputy Attorney General.
Under that law, individuals can sue, and certainly the Attorney General can sue a private entity like
North Valley Hospital received its first delivery of 400 doses of the COVID-19 vaccine. As a critical access hospital, North Valley Hospital was designated as a distribution site for the Moderna vaccine as part of Phase 1A. North Valley Hospital administered its first doses of the vaccine Tuesday night to high-risk healthcare workers that are at the highest risks for known or expected COVID-19 exposure.
University has had a rough time during the pandemic.
First, it joined a list of American universities whose fall semesters were upended by COVID outbreaks. There were more than 1,000 cases among students and staff in the first month.
And tonight, the university is defending its disciplinary protocols after angry parents criticized the school. The family of a sophomore tells our ABC tennis reporter Jennifer Kastner their daughter may be suspended for the entire semester for not reporting her COVID test results fast enough.
SDSU said Monday that consequences for violating COVID-19 policies can include official warnings, suspensions, or even expulsions. A campus challenged months ago by its explosive COVID-19 case numbers, now criticized for its disciplinary action against students. You're about to hear from the father of an SDSU student who asked that we not show her face or use her name out of fear of retribution. He says she lives in a single room in the dorms. When she fell ill, he says she visited the county's testing site on campus where she tested positive, but waited 4 days to notify the housing authority instead of doing it immediately.
She thought that she didn't have to because the test was done on campus. She thought it was being reported to the school. Documentation that she had signed for housing said that she should report results or contact with other positive students immediately. And immediately is not defined in any of the paperwork.
He says she self-quarantined but still got in trouble. This is the letter the school sent. Options include taking an academic suspension for the spring semester or for this current semester.
It means all the work you've done all this semester will be wiped out. You're giving up this entire semester.
He says he's part of a Facebook group where dozens of other SDSU parents are sounding off about similar disciplinary actions for what he calls minor offenses during a rapidly changing pandemic.
It seems like the school is very overhandedly punishing students in this environment.
SDSU reports that due to privacy regulations, it can't give out information about specific cases, but states in part that it rolled out extensive education campaigns related to pandemic policies that the university community should adhere to. To date, 1,423 notices of possible individual or organizational violations have been issued. Additional notices of violation are pending. The student who we profiled plans to fight the school to avoid any suspensions. Jennifer Kastner, ABC.
Of April. Clark County health officials say that's when most Nevadans are going to be able to readily get a vaccine. And a big reason why is the nation's limited supply.
We have plans in place for Tier 1 for the next few weeks.
Clark County health officials gave a closer look at their vaccine rollout now through spring and says the earliest most Nevadans can get a vaccine is April. The state's still working through Tier 1 with frontline healthcare workers and nursing home residents. It also includes psychiatric hospitals, EMTs, and pharmacists.
Hoping to complete that at the end of January.
Then comes Tier 2, which ranges from teachers, public transit workers, essential retail, airport, and food bank workers.
It's a big group. We will need a little more time with that tier. We're looking at teachers and childcare workers and all those folks that we want to get back to work. If there's not a lot of people in Tier 2 who do not want the vaccine, then we move on to Tier 3.
Tier 3 includes the homeless, those with underlying health conditions, and seniors 65 and up. That conflicts with what the CDC now recommends, calling for older seniors to be after healthcare personnel.
As soon as the state modified the tier system and make it consistent with the CDC system, we will proceed to do the same.
As for the general public, adults, and now 16 and 17-year-olds only for Pfizer's vaccine, health officials say it'll take time for manufacturers to make that many doses. By that time, you will have more options where to get a shot. From mass vaccination sites looking like COVID-19 testing sites, your local pharmacy, your doctor, or so-called pods or strike teams to specific communities.
And this is just the beginning. The vaccine companies are just ramping up.
It would be very difficult to reach that population before April.
The FDA did approve Pfizer's vaccine for ages 16 and up. So when the public can get the vaccine, parents have to accompany their 16 and 17-year-olds to a site and then get parental consent.
In Washington County, more than a dozen Charleroi firefighters already received their vaccines. Shelby Cassesi talked with the department's chief about what this means for him, his firefighters, and the community.
As coronavirus vaccines reach the arms of more healthcare workers,
we are encouraged as hospitals continue to administer more vaccine
And there is more vaccine available now with the addition of the Moderna vaccine.
State Secretary of Health Dr. Rachel Levine is encouraging hospitals to take the next steps of their role in the supply chain.
My message today to hospitals is to start to reach out and to work together with EMS providers and the agencies, as well as other non-affiliated healthcare providers, and work to get them vaccinated as soon as possible.
And we're beginning to see that plan in action in the Mon Valley. Here at Mon Valley Hospital, a representative tells me they had enough doses to take care of their employees and begin distributing the vaccine to local first responders.
It's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Charleroi Fire Chief Robert Whiten Jr. says he was not expecting his crew to get the vaccine from Mon Valley Hospital so quickly.
They said they had some extras after they vaccinated their people, and he gave me a call, and we got our guys vaccinated.
A Mon Valley Hospital spokesperson told KDKA they were able to distribute the vaccine to local first responders from multiple agencies. Whiten says 19 firefighters received the first of 2 coronavirus shots in his department, though 16 more have not been vaccinated yet. He says he can feel the weight on his shoulders getting lighter.
You want to keep the guys safe, and we sanitize our fire station twice a week, and it does get frustrating, but I'm hoping with the shot, the COVID shot, that maybe we'll get back to some normalcy here.
𝐔𝐕𝐄𝐍𝐓
Are really supposed to get going later this evening, but some families have already been without power all day long. The stockings are hung by the chimney with care. And the generator is sending an extremely annoying noise through the air. Strong winds are blowing into Southern California on the night before Christmas Eve.
It's so unfair.
And Michelle McCarthy has had enough of the public safety power shutoffs that now commonly accompany them.
Especially Christmas, and people are without jobs, people don't have money.
And people like her are rushing out to buy generators on this chilly and windy night, so the food they bought for Christmas doesn't spoil. Edison cut the power to her electric grid in Canyon Country at 8 o'clock this morning and told her not to expect it back on until Christmas afternoon.
I understand that, there might be a fire. I get that. But what I don't get, Edison, is how do you turn off one side of the street and you leave the other side of the street on? It doesn't make any sense.
It's Edison's approach to preventing fires caused by downed or damaged power lines. Over in the Inland Empire, fire crews in Fontana fought back a brush fire that ignited near the 15 and Sierra today and quickly spread to 150 acres in strong winds. No homes were damaged.
It's not only me that's being affected, it's so many other people, that don't have money.
Over 17,000 households across SoCal currently have no power, and 93,000 more could lose theirs next. Even though McCarthy's food is fresh in the refrigerator, she can't cook dinner in her own home.
I can cook outside in my barbecue with my propane tank in the cold.
And we have a link to Edison's power outage map on our website, KCAL9.com. I'm Nicole Comstock, KCAL9 News.
Storm tracking team is committed to keeping you safe during this severe weather threat. Our Micah Warwick is live in our storm tracker truck with some tips from emergency managers. Micah, it looks like there's no problems out there right now, right?
Yeah, smooth sailing so far as we head south on Highway 59 in Baldwin County, but that certainly could change within a matter of hours. Our storm tracking unit able to give you a live picture out here in Baldwin County. Tonight, while so many people are thinking about being ready for Christmas, emergency managers want weather to be top of mind too. Leading off a night threatened by potential severe weather, gray skies in Baldwin County, as tornadoes and heavy wind could be possible overnight.
Hopefully, as this system pushes through tonight, most of the tornado threat will be exhausted by Thursday mid-morning to make sure that you're getting woken up should you need to take action if a warning is issued.
Baldwin County still vulnerable from Hurricane Sally, with emergency managers warning to be mindful of leaning trees and weakened structures when there are heavy winds. Holiday decorations could also end up down the street, so consider tying them down or deflating.
Many light decorations may be blown down from their house, but those inflatables, they may create a little bit of an issue, so you may want to consider bringing some of those down and protecting your property.
And with the threat expected overnight, have a way to get alerts.
There's always ways that you can stay connected and informed to receive those alerts and notifications if we do have tornado warnings or other warnings that of severe weather.
Well, the Baldwin County EMA also looking ahead to Christmas Day with temperatures predicted to be in the 30s, telling people to take care of your pets, your plants, and make sure you have adequate heat and a safe heating source. Live in the Storm Tracker, Michael Warwick, Fox 10 News.
Kalamazoo gave out new coats to people living along the river this afternoon.
First United Methodist Church members say they've given out about 70 coats so far that also turn into sleeping bags. This effort was done in partnership with Hope Through Navigation and the Kalamazoo Urban Alliance. Police officers from several local agencies came by to help pass out the coats. Community groups say they wanted to do more to help with temperatures getting colder and the COVID pandemic continuing to add to economic hardships.
Kalamazoo is definitely a very caring community, along with a lot of the support organizations that have really been wrapping around themselves around this community, but are really being more intentional and making sure that we are not violating the CDC guidelines of not desegregating unhoused people, but making sure that we are giving them the basic needs that they need with dignity and with hope.
If you would like to learn how to help, we have posted a link inside our story.
At 5, the Alabama Department of Public Health reporting a severe allergic reaction to Pfizer's COVID vaccine. We're told the shot was administered at Decatur Morgan Hospital in northern Alabama. The patient was treated and is said to be stable and recovering. The department said the patient has a history of reactions to, quote, biological agents, but wished to proceed with the vaccine anyway.
Well, the first person in Maui County received a coronavirus vaccine today. Will Ambat, a Maui health respiratory therapist, got the shot at the Maui Memorial Medical Center. Like the rest of the state, the vaccine doses are being prioritized first to healthcare workers, with first responders in Kupuna being in the next priority group.
Retired Colonel Carl Cooper served his country for years. Today, his country is paying him back for that service, getting him in line for the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine. The 100-year-old got his shot at the Birmingham VA Center Wednesday.
I've lived a long time, been through a lot of things. I want to keep living.
And that's the same goal staff members at the Tuscaloosa VA Medical Center have for their vets as well. They vaccinated 50 people today.
Our goal is to use all our vaccinations within the next 3 weeks.
Director John Merkel says they've had veterans die from the virus. Having the vaccine in hand now makes them proactive.
Receiving the vaccine is really a sign of hope for us that next year will be better.
For Cooper, the vaccine couldn't have come at a better time. He offers this advice to those still hesitant.
I would encourage them to, if they're thinking negatively, think again, think positive, and participate in it at your earliest convenience. And let's get this epidemic behind us.
Officials with the VA Medical Center in Tuscaloosa say they are not giving the vaccine to outpatients right now. Those who are interested can go to the VA Stay Informed page online. In Birmingham, I'm Magdala Lusant.
Oakland's new housing plan is to create homes for those pushed into homelessness. It's called Project Reclamation. KPIX5's Susie Steimel has a look at the $10 million idea.
With an ongoing housing crisis coupled with a global pandemic, the most vulnerable among us have become more so. And that's what sparked Governor Gavin Newsom's Project Home Key concept to get unhoused people into hotels. Well, today Oakland announced it plans to spend its Home Key dollars a little differently. It's affordable housing on a large scale. Tens of thousands of hotel rooms have been turned into housing for the homeless. Now Oakland is adding single-family homes to its inventory.
This is truly home.
In partnership with Bay Area Community Services, or BACS, Oakland announced it will house 100 people in 17 single-family homes.
It's really the homes that people in our community have owned generationally for decades and decades, and we're really giving these keys back to them.
In typical BACS style, they'll be shared homes. The bedrooms are private, which allows them to be more affordable spaces. Tenants will have to pay rent, but BACS CEO Jamie Almanza says they have the reserves to help ease people back into paying rent.
People who've been living on the streets for, say, 10 years haven't paid rent in a long time. And so we have a reserve where we're able to help people kind of as they're learning and reacclimating.
Thanks to the Project HomeKey funds, these properties are fully paid for. They're going into a community trust. Tenants will be coming from the Project Room Key hotels, and many are already home.
That people heal best after they've come inside. We do not want to undo that health that we've been able to provide during this year. And that is why Project HomeKey has been such a Christmas miracle.
Mayor Libby Schaaf says she intends to push the state to double down on this type of a home key project. She also wants to make sure that everyone that is housed during this pandemic keeps that housing. In Oakland, Susie Steimel, KPIX 5.
We're converts, and so we're like all about going to church and stuff.
And as energized Catholics, Stephen and Kim Erdlichka saw last Easter as a major highlight of their new faith. But because of COVID, they say they watched Easter services on TV.
There was a little bit of a scare that we'd be closed for Christmas because the cases were going up and things like that.
I just still can't even believe that we're open. So we're just so thankful that it's even open now, as opposed to how it was when the first closures happened.
The chancellor for the Diocese of Las Vegas says the church has protocols to make sure services are spiritually fulfilling as well as safe.
At Christmas time, tomorrow night, the faithful can come to their parishes and celebrate Mass up to 25% of fire code capacity.
Just one of several changes for Christmas services at Stephen and Kim's church, Roman Catholic Shrine of the Most Holy Redeemer.
And it's on a first come, first serve basis for Mass attendance. As far as confession, it's by reservations because of time limitation. Everyone that comes in is required to wear a mask. Their temperature is taken.
And parishioners are asked to provide their name and a phone number for COVID contact tracing if it becomes necessary.
At first we weren't really cool with that.
It was a little disheartening and confusing, but but we understand.
Basically, for what we get to be able to go to church, we're so thankful to comply.
Some sacrifices to be physically present to celebrate the birth of Jesus and receive the sacrament.
Literally, we believe the body and blood of Jesus Christ, so for us it is the highest thing that we do in our lives.
Something that would certainly be hard to do from your living room. Joe Vigil, Fox 5 News, local.
That wind she just talked about, more than 1,000 families are without power tonight. SDG&E shut off electricity to more than 1,100 customers, and thousands more are on standby. This is all because of those strong winds ripping through parts of the county, and that, of course, increases the risk of wildfires. ABC 10 News reporter Anthony Purra spoke with an East County family whose only light right now is coming from their Christmas tree.
I spoke with a mother in East County. She says her family is doing okay without power, but adds the timing of it so close to Christmas is just frustrating.
The whole house to the kitchen.
Leah Seo's home in Descanso is in the dark after SDG&E shut off their power Wednesday afternoon.
I have a 5-month-old, a 6-year-old, and a 5-year-old, so it's very complicated, but right now I'm using my Christmas tree to light up the house in the living room.
They have a small generator powering the tree. They also have some lanterns for light. SDG&E has warned more than 31,000 customers they could be impacted by potential public safety power shutoffs. The orange parts in this map are areas at risk of losing power. The red spots are areas that have already had it shut off. Strong Santa Ana winds in parts of the county increase the risk of a fire growing quickly should something spark. It's triggered a red flag warning through noon Thursday.
We're still staffed up just like we were in the middle of summer.
CAL FIRE says they have crews ready to move quickly should something flare up, saying dry conditions are an added concern.
A lot of times we see Santa Ana's going through December, and that part's nothing new for us. The struggle this time is that we have the Santa Ana conditions and we still have the fuels that are incredibly dry.
As for Leah's family, they just hope they'll have their power back on by Christmas Eve.
If they don't get the power back on by tomorrow, then we'll be wrapping in the dark. So, I mean, it is what it is. We'll survive, but it's a bummer.
Anthony Purra, ABC 10 News.
And there have already been 4 public safety power shutoffs by SDG&E so far this year. You can follow any changes in the forecast and stay one step ahead of these power shutoffs with the ABC 10 News app. You can can find it for free.
We have power in numbers.
Stacey Edwards works at a Sacramento County restaurant. This is her third time being unemployed since the start of the pandemic.
There's this community here that believe that we have the right to run our businesses, and that is our property, and it's guaranteed to us in the Constitution, and that it cannot be taken away from us without either legislation or due process.
Edwards, who also has a background in graphic design, started the website sacramentofreedom.com, inspired by a similar page out of Placer County.
It's a free directory. You just submit a little form that says, what is your business? What's your name? We link to your website.
Standing in front of a crowd of small business owners and supporters, some who've defied a regional stay-home order and reopened their restaurants for indoor dining, Edwards explained the website is an effort to connect patrons with businesses.
If we have 50 restaurants linked there, what's ABC and OSHA and the health department going to do? Are they going to go to all 50? Well, maybe, but we're a community now, and we've united each other.
According to a Sacramento County spokesperson, no citations have been given since the regional stay-home order went into effect earlier this month. In a statement, the county says it's critical people follow the county health order in an effort to, quote, be effective in relieving pressure on our healthcare workers and hospital resources. Organizers of today's rally say while they want people to stay safe, they also say it's within their rights to stay open. In Folsom,
9 months into this pandemic, and testing has become more accessible to the general public at least. So far, the FDA has approved more than 200 diagnostic COVID-19 tests. 25 of those can be taken at home, most commonly by a saliva sample or a nasal swab, and then you can ship your results to a lab. But there are also 3 that can be done at home in as little as 15 minutes. But the question is, are those kinds of tests accurate? Dr. Amesh Adalja is an infectious disease physician at Johns Hopkins University Center for Health Security, and he joins us live tonight with the answers. Doctor, thank you for joining us tonight.
Sure, thank you for having me.
So the question is, are these home COVID tests reliable in your opinion?
I do think they're reliable. You have to remember, though, that you have to ask why you're getting tested. Are you getting tested because you have symptoms, or are you getting tested sort of as a screen to think whether or not you're contagious to other people? And if you're somebody that is sick and the test is negative, a rapid antigen test, you likely will need to get a PCR test to confirm that, a more complicated laboratory-based test. But if you're just checking for contagiousness, and you can do this frequently, and some of these home tests are going to drop in price, I do think they're accurate enough to be able to help you guide your actions. If you're testing yourself once a week or twice a week, or maybe even daily when you brush your teeth, which is one of the hopes, I think it can be an accurate tool.
Even daily when you brush your teeth, what test is that? And then what are the key differences between the different kinds that are out there right now?
So there's several different types of tests that are out there. One is a collection device, which is when people will get their sample and then send it off and then they get a result back. There are many different tests now that actually give you a result at home. Some of them are PCR, are molecular diagnostic tests, sort of like the PCR, but a little bit different. And then there are some rapid antigen paper tests, sort of like the pregnancy tests that people have seen before. Some of these require prescriptions, some of them don't, but the goal over time is to get non-prescription cheap tests that maybe cost $1 that will be able to tell you whether or not you're contagious that day, and then have people mass test themselves on a frequent basis. Right now, we're getting closer to that. Many of these tests, though, do require prescriptions, including the cheapest one. It still requires a prescription, and it still requires you to interface with a doctor through kind of telemedicine. But we're getting there, and I think that this is an important way to empower people to take their health into their own hands and to be able to take protective actions based on the result that they get.
In, say, 5-6 months, what do you see the future of at-home COVID testing looking like?
I think at-home COVID testing and actually at-home influenza testing and at-home other infectious disease testing is going to be much more the norm. I think there has been a real paradigm shift in the way regulatory agencies are looking at-home testing. I worked on a project even before this to try and push forward at-home testing, and I really think that this is going to be something that comes to fruition. Right now, we can test for HIV at home, now influenza, COVID-19. I think it's only the beginning of really changing the way we think about infectious disease diagnostics.
Dr. Amesh Adalja, thank you for joining us tonight.
It's focused on killing one deadly virus. It's leaving room for others to come back alive.
It's a stress on the public health systems.
Dr. Hannah Donaldson with Children's Hospital and Medical Center warns important childhood vaccines have taken a major dip since the pandemic hit. According to Donaldson, the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine is down 42%, and the whooping cough shot is down by 20%.
These are not small numbers. We think that part of that is because children aren't coming to their regular checkups like they used to. Because, I mean, people are trying to stay safe and stay at home and stay socially distanced.
Dr. Jane Carnazzo, a children's physician, is also raising a red flag.
We're starting to see the rise in illnesses that should be gone from the world.
She, alongside a study done by Blue Cross Blue Shield of Nebraska, show communities could be at risk for an outbreak, with an estimated 40% of parents saying they've missed their child's vaccinations this year. According to this major insurance company, it's estimated roughly 9 million doses of important shots could be missed by the end of 2020.
And anyone who's practiced as long as I have will tell you how scary it is. And today I so rarely see that because of those very valuable vaccines that children get now in infancy.
Dr. Donaldson and Dr. Carnazzo urge parents to schedule a meeting with a children's physician, get the crucial vaccines, and help grow herd immunity that's nearly eradicated these diseases for decades. In Omaha,
vaccines are being delivered to hospitals and healthcare workers around the state, as you know, but one group getting those shots is raising some eyebrows. Turns out inmates are near the front of the line, with vaccinations happening at the California healthcare facility in Stockton. CBS 13's Renee Santos with more on the prisoners getting vaccinated before others.
Yeah, it'll likely be several more months before the vaccine is made available to the general public. The state is distributing vaccines across the state using a tiered system that has inmates among some of the first to get the shot. Right now in the state of California, there are more than 10,000 inmates with COVID-19. That's according to the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. Among staff, more than 3,000 infections. According to California Correctional Healthcare Services, 3 of its institutions, including the California Healthcare Facility in Stockton, have been identified and qualify for the first phase of vaccine distribution. The facility plans to vaccinate people based on a person's risk level, whether that be an inmate or worker. So why are prisoners getting vaccinated before others? CBS 13 reached out to CDCR, who referred us to the California Correctional Healthcare Services Department, who didn't go into detail, only confirming vaccines have been received. We also reached out to the State Department of Public Health, but didn't get a response. Prisoners across the state have been hit hard by COVID-19, with social distancing difficult to practice because of being in close quarters and many inmates with health issues, making them susceptible. In addition, there have been several outbreaks with more than 112 inmates who have died from the virus and 11 staff members, according to CDCR. We asked people how they feel about this latest vaccination distribution. Many have mixed opinions.
I feel like they do need it just as bad as we do because they are also in that confined area.
I don't know why they're not full-fledged going into the nursing homes and places like that. I mean, they need it just the same.
Now, we also know that healthcare workers are also among the first to get vaccinated. We did reach out to get specific numbers on how many vaccines have been distributed.
Nursing homes are now giving out coronavirus vaccinations. Governor Hogan was there as the first few were given out to staff at Franklin Woods Center in Baltimore. Peak Healthcare at Copper Ridge and Sykesville also started giving out shots to both residents and staff. This is part of Phase 1 in Maryland's vaccine rollout.
Over the past several weeks, the number of people dying from COVID-19 inside Arizona prisons has continued to climb. News 4 Tucson's Lupita Murillo has been digging deeper into these numbers amid growing concerns about the safety of those who are locked up.
Since the start of the pandemic, a total of 25 Arizona State inmates have died of COVID-19. Many of those deaths have been here at the Arizona State Prison in Tucson.
It's very hard because we were scared. We were praying that he wouldn't get the virus.
For Lillian Coppas, whose husband Wellington is incarcerated at the Arizona State Prison on South Wilmot Road, each day is filled with uncertainty. There have been more than 1,300 COVID-19 cases at the facility since the start of the pandemic. 10 inmates there have died.
Since the beginning, he told me, at the beginning of April, I remember him telling me I am going to get it because it's impossible to social distance in prison. It is just impossible.
COVID-19 has hit Arizona prisons hard. At the Yuma prison, where so far more than 800 inmates have tested positive, it was recently learned that the warden himself was infected. He later died from the illness. This as state corrections leaders work to try and get a handle on the pandemic.
I think it's fair to say that the response is below the expected standard of any institution that's responsible for people that can't really provide for themselves.
Veronica Torres spent 25 years, a life sentence in prison for murder. She now works with the Puente Human Rights Movement. Torres knows firsthand what life is like on the inside. Now with the pandemic, she says a bad situation has only gotten worse.
When prisoners try to grieve the medical process or the COVID conditions in the facility, the grievances would disappear, and it's impossible for anyone on the inside, to be heard.
Making things even more difficult, as is the case with hospitals and nursing homes. Families have not been able to personally visit their loved ones who are inmates, and it's unclear when that will change.
It hurts, and I think that's with anybody when you miss your family, but in there it's a little bit different, especially now with COVID.
The Digging Deeper team wanted to know why there were so many deaths at the Wilmot prison, even more than at other facilities with more inmates. In an email, a corrections spokesperson told us, quote, ASPC Tucson has some units that are medical facilities that house inmates with more significant medical issues and needs. All inmate deaths are investigated in consultation with the county medical examiner's office. Director Shin and ADCRR have followed all CDC and ADHS guidelines throughout the pandemic and continue to do so, end quote. Meanwhile, families like Lillian's aren't convinced they're getting the whole story when it comes to how many people.
The federal government has struck a deal with Pfizer to get tens of millions more Americans vaccinated against COVID-19. Under the terms of the agreement, Pfizer will supply 100 million additional doses of its vaccine by July 1st. That doubles the number of vaccine deliveries to the U.S., helping offset a potential shortage next year. The vaccine isn't the only thing slowing the spread of COVID-19. A new device we first showed you on KDK News at 7:30 promises to fight the virus by zapping it in fast-moving air. As Dr. Maria Simbra reports, the new technology is now being used at a local hospital.
To keep the air clean, hospitals use positive pressure in some places to keep microbes from getting in and negative pressure in other places to clear them out. But in the era of COVID-19, hospitals will take a little extra help.
We are using the nanowave technology as sort of a belt and suspenders kind of system to add extra safety.
It was one of those technologies that when we heard about it, we thought this isn't something that we could pass up with the amount of community spread.
To rid the air of bacteria and viruses, including the novel coronavirus, St. Clair Hospital says it is the first in the area to use the nanowave.
The device has UV light within it that does not escape the device and inactivates the virus in the device. The data has been tested by independent sources, the NIH. The data appears to show a decrease in viruses and bacteria in the air.
St. Clair Hospital has installed wall units in the emergency department waiting room with plans to add these in other waiting areas, patient rooms, and break areas by the end of the year.
It's not about, the money. It's always about, how much we can do and to benefit our patients and benefit our staff and our employees to make a safer environment. So the investment is ours. It's St. Clair Hospital's investment to do just that.
Infection rates will be continually monitored.
With the amount of community spread and exposure outside of the hospital, we wouldn't necessarily be able to correlate directly to one piece of technology since we have all of the other prevention measures in place.
And just because the system is running, that doesn't mean people can go back to the old normal.
Regardless of vaccination, regardless of the nanowave, we still have to do best practice to prevent the spread of COVID. This is really to minimize what's in the air. We still would want to mask and protect ourselves and our staff and our patients from COVID.
An extra layer of precaution. I'm Dr.
Congressional
Maria
leaders
Simbra,
are calculating their next move after the president slammed the $900 billion COVID relief bill. Now, yesterday, the president blasted the $600 direct payments included in the bill as inadequate. threatening a veto. Democrats quickly embraced the idea, but most Republicans strongly oppose the president's request to send more money directly to Americans. That means direct checks to workers, beefed up unemployment benefits, and help to small businesses are all now in limbo tonight.
And federal help can't come soon enough for Bay Area businesses and families. KPIX5's Andrea Nakano is in Berkeley tonight to explain how even a small delay could be a big deal.
If all had gone according to plan, those who needed the help would have gotten a late Christmas present from the federal government next week. But now, as lawmakers go back to the table, that much needed relief may not come anytime soon. After a long year full of ups and downs, Revival Bar and Kitchen in Berkeley is busy again, preparing holiday meals to go. Owner and chef Amy Murray says she wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the federal government.
We got the first PPP loan, which we were so grateful for. It saved us. Without it, we would not have survived.
The COVID relief bill would offer another round of PPP loans to small businesses, in addition to the much-needed stimulus check. But now that's all hit a roadblock.
This was all done behind closed doors at the last minute, and that's not a way to run a railway.
UC Berkeley professor Dr. Barry Eichengreen says this bill is just a bridge to the next Congress and administration coming in the new year. What the president's objections to the bill does is delay relief to those who need it most.
We can't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. The good outweighs the bad, and we need to encourage our Congress people to keep pushing and keep working on behalf of people who need help.
Meanwhile, Revival Bar and Kitchen is comforted by the support of the community, those who put in orders for holiday meals and takeout. Murray is hoping for the next PPP loan, but the reality is the only way to get out of the financial hole the pandemic has left behind is for the loans to be forgiven.
There's no catching up in 2020. There's forgiveness and there's miracles.
In Berkeley, Andrea Nakano,
lawmakers are scrambling to deal with the chaotic fallout after President Trump demanded changes to their recently passed COVID stimulus bill.
CBS 4's Skylar Henry is at the White House with what happens next.
President-elect Joe Biden emphasized his plans to reopen schools while introducing his education secretary nominee, Miguel Cardona.
Early next year, I will put forward before the Congress our plan as to what comes next. But I assure you it includes funding to keep educators on the job.
The former public school teacher and principal currently serves as Connecticut's education commissioner.
It shouldn't take a pandemic for us to realize how important teachers are for this country.
In a surprise move, President Trump is now demanding lawmakers revise the $900 billion COVID relief package it passed this week.
Amend this bill and increase the ridiculously low $600 to $2,000 or $4,000 for a couple.
Moments after the president tweeted his demands, congressional Democrats responded in overwhelming agreement. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi tweeted, "At last, the president has agreed to $2,000. Democrats are ready to bring this to the floor." But in order to do that during Thursday's pro forma session, Pelosi would need the cooperation of House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy. The president's demand for the changes has caused a split with some members of his party. Senator Rand Paul on Fox News Channel.
Most working Americans don't need a check right now. It's a really foolish, egg-headed, left-wing socialist idea to pass out free money to people.
Without the provisions in that bill, millions of Americans will lose their federal unemployment benefits the day after Christmas. Skylar Henry, CBS
any
News.
indication mid-January or later may be an accurate timeline. The county announced its single deadliest day during the pandemic yet. And the governor said the state will open up a federal medical station at Palomar Medical Center in Escondido. ABC 10 News reporter Mimi Alcala explains how many beds will be made available and who they're for.
The federal medical station was set up back in April, but we never needed it, not even during the summer surge. But as Governor Gavin Newsom announced, that has changed.
We are bringing a fifth alternative care site out of warm status. We're standing up that site, an FMS site down in San Diego.
Governor Gavin Newsom is talking about this federal medical station set up on the 10th and 11th floors of Palomar Medical Center in Escondido. There are currently 202 beds that could help with overflow patients from hospitals across the county as they deal with a surge in hospitalized COVID-19 patients. There are 4 other sites like this activated in the state.
Porterville and Fairview down in Imperial, and of course the Sleep Train Arena up in Sacramento.
While Palomar Health did not comment on the governor's announcement Wednesday, a few weeks ago we did hear from the chief medical officer, Dr. Omar Khawaja. At the time, he said plans for the federal medical station were still being worked out with hospital systems in the county, including how the beds would be staffed. But what he did know is that the 202 beds would not be used for ICU patients.
It is not set up for high acuity patients, though, so it's not going to give us, 200 ICU beds, but it could be beds that we would be able to offload some of the less sick patients from other systems into there so that they could handle the sicker patients.
Right now in the Southern California region, ICU capacity sits at 0%. While we still do have some ICU beds here in San Diego County, the big problem hospitals are facing is making sure there's enough staff to care for all patients.
And right now in San Diego County, we have 24 staffed ICU beds available. That's out of about 670 ICU beds. 24 left today. Now, patients are coming in and out every day. Those numbers change. But that indicates to me, and I think that others in the healthcare system, that we have a little bit of a dilemma on our hands.
Mimi Alcala,
An explosion rocks downtown Baltimore. The blast being blamed on the work being done inside the BGE building. Tonight, 19 people are hospitalized. WJZ is live tonight at the scene. Kelsey Kushner on West Fayette Street with a look at what happened and reaction from witnesses. Kelsey.
Well, Max, it looks like police still have a good portion of this roadway completely blocked off to traffic as crews work to secure and then remove that scaffolding that is still dangling on the side of the building. Now, we did speak with a few witnesses who said they were in the area at the time of that explosion. They say it sounded like an earthquake.
8:20 this morning, just threw me right out of bed.
A quiet morning in downtown Baltimore quickly turned into chaos.
The glass on the building shook when it went boom. And I didn't know what it was. There's heavy damage on the 16th floor.
Fire officials say an explosion inside the BGE offices Wednesday morning injured 21 construction workers and trapped 2 window washers on a scaffolding that dangled nearly 12 stories above a busy sidewalk. I think it's sad. The explosion was felt throughout the neighborhood.
It was like a shock, like a big vibration.
Roger Lewis says he was walking in the area when suddenly he heard a loud boom and the ground shook beneath him.
The glass over here wobbled, and I was like, what is that? It was boom, you hear the loud sound.
Neighbors watched in shock as the air clouded with smoke and debris. City police quickly shut down traffic and WJZ cameras were rolling as the workers were pulled to safety.
One of our members had to step out on the scaffold, climb up the scaffold, and bring him through the 11th floor.
Officials say the blast blew out several windows and sparked a fire and a partial roof collapse. BGE says it's been working on its air handling and boiler system, which likely caused this to happen.
At this point, we're still investigating. We know it was a construction-related incident.
We need everyone to be praying for the people that we know are in serious condition, folks who suffered injuries.
Now, officials say that at least 9 people are in critical condition. 1 person is suffering from serious injuries. Reporting live tonight, Kelsey.
The State Health Department issued a brown water advisory for 𝐶𝐍𝐶 Bay beach due to beach water that was all brown from storm water runoff that was entering the ocean there. People being advised to stay out of the water there due to possible overflowing cesspools, sewers.
Off the top at 11 now, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis making it clear that essential workers will not be prioritized during this phase of the state's COVID-19 vaccine rollout.
The order breaking with CDC guidance, and Local 10's Leanne Motorhong is live in Miami with who the governor is focused on. Leanne.
Well, he wants to see people over the age of 65 be prioritized for this next round of vaccinations. The CDC wanted to see people over 75 and certain essential frontline workers. We do know that people can start to make appointments or sign up for these vaccines. The details, though, are still murky. We are hoping to get those very soon. But as you can see, this does deviate from the guidance we were getting from the federal government. And here's Governor Ron DeSantis' reasoning as to why.
This morning, I'll be signing an executive order that makes it clear our seniors
are going to be the first priority.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis speaking at a hospital in Pensacola Wednesday, telling Floridians that people age 65 and older will be next in line for the COVID-19 vaccine, adding that supplies are limited.
We don't have enough vaccine to do everyone.
More than 4 million in Florida are over the age of 65, and available doses of the vaccine only number in the hundreds of thousands.
Don't rush to your local hospital or county health department. Right now, you're going to have an opportunity to sign up, I think, in very short order. Bear with us.
DeSantis broke from CDC guidance, which stated people over the age of 75 should be next in line, along with frontline essential workers. Here's his thinking.
The problem is people that are 73, 74 would be in the back of the line for a young 21-year-old worker who's considered, quote, essential. That doesn't, I think, make sense.
Vaccines continue to be administered to priority groups in South Florida. Doses of the Moderna vaccine were administered at Broward Health Imperial Point, and Pfizer doses were given to patients and staff at skilled nursing facility Memorial Manor, part of the state's pilot program to accelerate distribution to long-term care facilities.
If there's one dose here in Pensacola left for this week, I want it to go to an elderly.
And Mount Sinai Hospital is reportedly one of those hospitals that is going to start setting up that sign-up process so that people can go ahead and line up digitally or however they decide for that vaccine. Again, a lot more details still need to be ironed out here. And earlier this evening, the president of the United Teachers of Dade did release a statement in response to all of this. They, of course, were hoping to see teachers prioritized. They say that they are disappointed and that they should have, or that the governor rather should have listened to CDC guidance and made teachers a priority. More on this to come. We are live in Miami.
I'm Leanne. Who set up camp in the tent city at Hartside Park in downtown Grand Rapids.
News 8's Ken Kolker joins us live as the city forces the last few people to leave. Ken?
Now, the city had given people till sunset to get rid of their tents, but as you can see behind me, there are still plenty of people here, and we count at least 15 tents still standing. Now it's leaving some of the homeless wondering where they'll go.
I don't know. My bipolar disorder has been really out of control.
Susan Mullenix-Wade proudly wears her high school colors. She's a former real estate agent who sold model homes for a local builder. She's been living in the tent at the far south end of Hartside Park. Her friends call her China Doll.
And the one thing that I guess people need to understand is all these people have a story. And if you could understand their story, you could understand their addiction and why they're homeless.
She refuses to live in a mission, including the one that just opened across the street at the old Purple East building.
We can't go into missions right now. We have a COVID crisis going on. People can't even leave their apartments right now, but they're making us leave our tents.
Homeless men and women started camping at the park about 8 weeks ago, driven by COVID and crowded missions, and the city allowed it even though it's against an ordinance.
Yep, this is my life here.
Yeah.
This is what they call home, I guess, you know?
Because it's all known as this. Some people enjoy this. Hey, I don't enjoy this. Look at my hands are turned purple.
It grew to nearly 50 tents and up to 100 people.
This encampment that's happened here in the park has devolved to a point that there are significant health and safety issues here.
A Kent County Health Department investigation requested by the city found he was unsafe and unsanitary. Today, as volunteers helped load belongings into U-Hauls, police mark each tent site with spray-painted numbers.
We can't make anybody go into a shelter, and that's not our intent. Our intent is trying to help them find healthy and safe alternatives to the current environment that is here.
Some, though, wonder if the city could have waited until after Christmas.
You survive and you're a family, and everybody looks out for each other. And it's the holidays. And everybody's going to be split up.
Now, it's not clear what will happen to these tents next, but clearly the city says that they will not be occupied any longer. Live in Grand Rapids, Ken Kolker, News 8.
The second FDA-approved COVID-19 vaccine arrives here in Spokane. We'll break down how it's being put to use in our region.
As we close in on Christmas Day, it looks like there might be a chance for a white Christmas in the inland Northwest as I'm tracking how much snow will fall heading into the weekend.
No one's going to let us have 70 people in our auditorium until it's actually safe to do so, nor do we want to.
The curtains have remained closed for arts organizations in our area. We caught up with a local theater group to see how they're managing and how the stimulus package may offer the lifeline they need. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us here tonight. Mark and Whitney are off. Breaking news right now, Spokane has received its first shipment of the Moderna vaccine. That is the second vaccine that received emergency use authorization from the FDA for the fight against COVID. Here's what we know right now. Spokane County received 15,800 doses. This afternoon, Multicare confirmed it has received its first shipment of the Moderna vaccine and vaccinations have begun today for staff at Rockwood Clinic, Valley and Deaconess Hospitals. In addition to making the vaccine available to its most high-risk healthcare staff, Multicare says it's also holding 20% of its allocations for other frontline workers, including firefighters and EMTs. As of today, more than 30,000 COVID vaccine shots have been given to high-risk healthcare workers across Washington state. And with new shipments of the Moderna vaccine arriving in the state, that vaccine will be rolled out to long-term care facilities that registered with the CDC's long-term care program, and that starts on Monday.
We are so excited about this rapid progress because it means we are starting to save lives.
In the state, COVID-19 transmission is plateauing but hasn't decreased enough. Washington is seeing a downturn in number of tests done and in the number of positive tests. Daily hospital admissions of COVID-19 patients have been relatively flat statewide since the start of December. And for most of us, we probably won't get a dose of the vaccine until at least spring. The government says the general population can likely begin getting the shots in March. Officials say they have purchased enough doses to vaccinate every American by the end of June. In the meantime, for the latest vaccine update so that you can stay up to speed, just text the word vaccine to that number right there on your screen. Today, Kootenai Health announced it's treating a record high number of COVID-19 patients. Right now, Kootenai is caring for 91 COVID patients, 28 of them requiring critical care. They've now created 3 COVID units to treat these patients and has all canceled elective surgeries until at least January 10th to make sure they have enough staff and space. We did ask the hospital about their capacity and whether they will need to divert patients, but
as
haven't
more
yet
Arizonans
heard back.
prepare to receive the new coronavirus vaccine, there are still more questions about the 2 different shots. News 4 Tucson's Amanda Gomez is getting answers.
A viewer wants to know, can you mix the Pfizer and Moderna COVID-19 vaccines? According to the CDC, the answer is no. The CDC says, quote, these mRNA COVID-19 vaccines are not interchangeable with each other or with other COVID-19 vaccine products. The safety and efficacy of a mixed product series have not been evaluated. Both doses of the series should be completed with the same product. However, if 2 doses of different mRNA COVID-19 vaccine products are inadvertently administered, no additional doses of either product are recommended at this time. The CDC says recommendations may be updated as more information becomes available or other vaccine types are authorized. If you have a question about the coronavirus, email gettinganswers@kvoa.com. We've got you covered. Amanda Gomez, News 4 Tucson.
Here we have geoengineering and weather modification patents. Keep in mind, bear in mind that the list is huge. Okay? The list is huge. Now, Also, geoengineering and weather modification has been exposed on this guy's website. We're going to include the website URL below this video. Now, on their website, they have a lot going on the list is huge. Geoengineering and weather modification exposed. Okay, so we're going to share some of that list with you. So again, appreciate you guys being on here. Okay, and on that list, I'm going to quickly go over weather modification patents. 1891 046279 fine method of producing rain. That was back in 1891. Go up to about the 1930s, process of dissipating fog. 1939, the method of vapor clearing, and also airplane spray equipment and skywriting apparatus. You get in the 40s, you get to see airplane spray units, smoke producing mixture, smoke screen generator, aerial discharge device. And this list is coming by here fast, but I'm just giving you a brush up on it. And again, we'll include the link in the description box. In the 50s, the method of dispersing natural atmospheric clouds, fog dispelling composition. Cloud seeding carbon dioxide bullet was in 1960, and the method of artificially influencing the weather was in 1964. Silver iodide cloud seeding generator, major commercial ingredient, generation ice nucleating crystals. And then when you get up in the later, you get up in the 1970s. The 1970 apparatus for suppressing contrails, artificial ion cloud, production of improved metal oxide pigment, and control of atmospheric particles. And you get more deeper in the latter 70s, and you get into method of apparatus for triggering a substantial change of Earth characteristics and measuring Earth changes. Pyrotechnic cloud seeding composition. And then in the 80s, you get into atmospheric modification, satellite and space, LEMAR, microjet, atomizer, and method of aerial spraying liquids, relative humidity, sensitive material. And later in the 80s, you have the method in apparatus of the measurement of the size of particles entrained in a gas. And then you get in the 90s, you have stratospheric Wellspat seeding for reduction of global warming. And then later in the 90s, you get into the method of device for remote diagnostics of ocean atmospheric system state, modification of supercooled fog, the use of artificial satellites in Earth orbits adaptively modify the effect of solar radiation would otherwise have on Earth's weather space. And then in the early 2000s, preparation of independently generating high reactive chemical species solar-powered airplane method and apparatus for modifying super cold clouds. Synthetic spun silk nanofibers and a process for making the same. Now, we're going to include this part, even though that I haven't added it to the video yet, which I will be, because I'm doing this step by step. So you have geoengineering patents of 1991, stratospheric Wellspat seeding for reduction of global warming, process for subsequently in the ocean atmospheric greenhouse gas carbon dioxide by means of supplementing the ocean with ammonia or salts thereof. Now imagine putting ammonia in the ocean. In the 1999 patent 6200530, water buoyant particulate materials containing micronutrients for phytoplankton. In 2000, method of apparatus for extracting subsequent carbon dioxide. In 2001, the method of carbon dioxide was spiral fertilization. Another one in 2001, it was the method and apparatus for extracting and sequestering carbon dioxide. In 2009, water alteration structure risk management or ecological alteration management systems and methods. Folks, this is crazy. And he also includes on the website hurricane hacking. The Department of Homeland Security enters weather modification business. And it says that the inventors was Bowers, Jeffrey A. Kirkland. I'm going to include that list in here so you can read it, but you have Stephen H. Salter and the whole 9 yards. Then you have the United States Patent Application 2009-0177569 to operate storm suppression equipment. It's going to be on the graph right below. Alert at least one interested party as to a potential for storm damage. Provide information at least one interested party of the cost and likelihood of reducing damage for at least one interested party. Receive at least one payment from at least one interested party. Receive requests from an interested party and provide storm protection. Then it gets into more patents, which I'm going to screenshot this stuff and flow it through. And in 2005, you had the method for extracting and sequestering carbon dioxide. 2009, water alteration structure system. Walter, go on down the list to 2011, carbon sequestration and production of hydrogen and hydroid. And then 2011, seawater-based carbon dioxide disposal. Now imagine that. Device suitable for retention in the nasal passage of the ruminant, device being arranged to pass the ruminant exhalation. The device including a first structure of configured to oxidizing methane gas in the ruminant exhaling, and the device being further arranged to pass products of the oxidized methane gas toward nasal passage exit. In 2012, treatment for ruminant exhalations, and then the production distribution of radioactive forcing agents in 2012. 2014, the system for facilitating cloud formation and cloud precipitation was done by Ken Caldera Cloud Ion Cannon. So if you're interested in this website, we're going to include the link in the whole 9 yards. But again, I just wanted to brush through with all this and present it to you, even if I didn't do it perfectly on this video. So can't live stream at the moment, so gotta wait 24 to 48 hours on the new channel. So in 7 days on our secondary channel, and never am I allowed to live stream on the main channel of Times and Science. So hopefully this list will come in handy. Check it out if you get a chance, because all the patents are there for weather modification. Okay? Thank you. Thank you for watching.